How does one know how much fat to eat? And then how does one know how much protein to eat? What if I want to lose weight? What if I want to gain weight? What if I want to heal from certain issues and health concerns?
I got shredded, literally. I got abs, never expected that. My hormones looked great. I got my period back. You're upregulating your thyroid. You will naturally burn more fat. You're literally upregulating all of your internal organs. So you're going to burn more fat at rest if you train your body to.
Hey carnivores, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Bella the Steak and Butter Gal. I would love to know how you all are doing so far on your carnivore journeys. Feel free to drop an update down below in the comments. Before I invite on Rebekah to discuss all things fat versus protein, I wanted to share that my next carnivore challenge is open for sign up. January 2024 is World Carnivore Month. I will be hosting the challenge alongside my favorite carnivore experts, Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Elizabeth Bright, Dr. Robert Kiltz, Dr. Tony Hampton, and Rebekah Heischman. Once you join the challenge, you will be able to hop on multiple live Zoom calls, multiple live Q&As throughout the week, every week, to ask these doctors your carnivore questions. We will help you troubleshoot and keep you accountable so that you get to your weight loss and health goals. For more details, you can go to the URL shown on the screen, sbgmeetup.com, or check out the links down below in the description box for a clickable link. Rebekah, welcome. Introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me, Bella. I am Rebekah Heischman. I'm 31 years young. I went carnivore in 2019 and reversed over 10 autoimmune diseases, chronic Lyme disease, chronic C. diff, CIRS, severe mood disorders. So I'm here to just spread the message of hope. I was really on my deathbed there for a while, and I'm a full-time health and life coach now.
Phenomenal. So I'm going to open up with my biggest question. I would love to kind of discuss it in detail because I get this question so much on YouTube, Instagram, even in the Steak and Butter Gang. How does one know how much fat to eat? And then how does one know how much protein to eat? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, so fat is the answer to a lot of issues. I mean, if someone has thyroid issues, adrenal issues, hormonal issues, fat is going to be really helpful for you. Even a man with low testosterone, you need more saturated fat. The one scenario where I would say less fat is if someone is fat adapted already, so their body knows how to use fat for fuel, and they have extra body fat. I would say go ahead and lower the fat, allow your body to tap into its own body fat, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. But even still, for that person, lower fat when you're not eating carbs is not a sustainable solution. We need fat for fuel, for just longevity in general, but you could definitely tap into that fat a couple days per week. That would be the approach that I would use. For most people, the amount of fat is going to vary. You know, someone with severe adrenal fatigue is probably going to benefit from a 2-to-1 fat to protein ratio in grams. I would not get into percentages. They're not exact enough. I would use grams. So if they want to eat 100 grams of protein a day, go ahead and shoot for 200 grams of fat per day. That process is slow to build up to, not something you should do overnight, but that is going to just really support their adrenals. Now, for someone with thyroid issues, you need sufficient fat and enough protein. So I'm going to say make sure you're dialing in on your protein and maybe aim for a 1.5-to-1 fat to protein ratio. You don't need so much extra security blanket is what the fat is.
Okay, what if somebody really just wants to prioritize, well, I want body recomposition. I'm finding it difficult to lose weight. It's not budging. Would you play around with that ratio?
Hit your 1 gram of protein per pound of desired body weight. That is sufficient. It's going to give you the most satiety. I'm not a super big fan of these lower protein, 60 grams of protein per day. You're going to be hungry and you're just going to overeat fat. So eat your protein, and then I would do at least 1.5-to-1 grams of fat to protein. So always keep your fat at least 30 grams higher than protein. That is going to keep you in fat burning mode. And then I think that's going to be plenty to, for body recomposition. What I don't want that person to do is bring fat lower than protein, cause your body to just run on gluconeogenesis, raise the cortisol, stress out your hormones. It's just not necessary. If you are hormonally stable, which anyone who's trying to shed fat should focus on being hormonally stable first. Once you're there, a 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio works for fat loss. You really shouldn't have to do anything extreme beyond that.
Rebekah, it's sort of the order that you're talking, though. You're talking about first getting that fat
Yeah.
adaptation. So at first, you are going to have a high fat
Oh,
approach. What are some signs that it's time to move on and you could do this other approach that you're talking where you actually
perfect. Yeah.
fat comes down a little bit?
Yeah. So this is a lot of my clients, who came to me with health issues, but another thing they would like to do is lose weight, right? And I'm sure you guys are familiar with that.
Yes.
Number one, I don't even care about the weight. I mean, it's going to come off when it's ready to come off. We're going to focus on you're going to sleep through the night. You're going to have great energy without your coffee. You're going to want to start working out. All of these things will happen. Your mood will improve. So this just happened with one of my clients. She came to me with health issues. And we've been together for about 2.5 months. And she just said, I'm not wanting the extra fat anymore. What do I do? Yeah. And so at this point, she's sleeping through the night. She has a great mood, which has improved a lot. Her energy is great. She's exercising a lot more voluntarily. And so I just told her, then don't force yourself to eat the extra fat. Your body is clearly fat adapted. It's taken to this really well. You've raised your thyroid hormone. All of your hormones and internal organs have upregulated because you've been nourishing your body for 2.5 months. Right. So now we don't need this extra security blanket. So for her, I did recommend sort of a protein sparing modified fast approach, pulling back the extra dietary fat a couple of days per week, maybe to 80 or 90 grams, which is sufficient to absorb your vitamins. But it is also plenty of extra room for you to tap into your own body fat. That is not something anyone should do day after day after day. Not something I would even recommend 2 days in a row, because that will lower your resting metabolic rate. We need to be eating at maintenance the rest of the time. That will keep you burning more fat at rest. Too many people just pull back the extra fat for, weeks and weeks on end, and you're just literally down regulating your thyroid. It's not going to last. It is not sustainable. So that's a situation that happens with a lot of clients. Once they're ready, her body will tell her. That happened with me as well. I gained up to 155. And then one day I just didn't want the lamb chops. I started eating more goat and veal and leaner cuts. I got shredded. Literally, I got abs. Never expected that. My hormones looked great. I got my period back. Like nothing tanked, nothing bad happened. I just got into a more supported place with my body. It was like, okay, I trust you. You're giving me enough. I have enough. I'm going to do more for you.
I want to share that when I first went carnivore, there was no way I could possibly be like, I'm going to do 1-to-1 for certain. My cravings were screaming for a stick of butter a day. So that's also another aspect of how to know how much to eat. If your cravings and your hunger and appetite signals are literally screaming more butter, more fat, more fatty meats, you really cannot deny yourself from those foods. Otherwise, like Rebekah said, your thyroid is going to suffer, your sleep is going to suffer, you're probably not going to get to your weight loss goals. But I also understand a lot of new viewers, they love to be able to track. And I think you're so fantastic, Rebekah, at giving those concrete guidelines, but in such a smart, safe way. You talked about playing around with 2-to-1, 1.5-to-1, and 1-to-1. Can you just explain which people are most suitable for each of these three and why?
Yeah, for sure. So the person with adrenal fatigue, the person not sleeping through the night, waking up between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., you're exhausting during the day. Anyone with epilepsy, you might go beyond 2-to-1, but the people with adrenal fatigue, you got to do 2-to-1. I personally think you need that. Your adrenals need fat, your thyroid needs protein and fat, but your adrenals especially need fat. The person who maybe is just carrying some extra weight, maybe has anxiety, not great energy, sleeps okay through the night, go ahead, do 1.5-to-1. That's very sustainable. The person with a ton of extra body fat has already become fat adapted, so they can just totally use fat for fuel, is sleeping through the night and just wants to lose that body fat, go 1-to-1. Use that as a lever to burn your own body fat. And then even for that person, especially if it's a female, I would say still have days where you're going higher than 1-to-1 fat to protein. I think men are more comfortable doing that longer term. If you're eating enough food in general, you should still be getting around 120 grams of fat if you're doing 1-to-1 minimum, which is good. But I think long term, you'll need days where you have higher fat.
Do you think it would be possible for someone to kind of take a couple days per week for one ratio and another couple days for another, just to troubleshoot?
Yeah. So for someone who's not sleeping through the night, try 2 to 1. Maybe your extra fat comes from eating a little bit of fat right before bed, which will help your sleep. And first thing in the morning, maybe little fat snacks. And then just try leaving out the fat snacks and see how you feel. How is your energy? How is your mood? How was your sleep? That'll be a very clear indicator whether or not you need the extra fat. I don't care what the scale says. You need to listen to your biofeedback and how you feel. The scale will work itself out. Your body composition will work itself out. You have to listen to how you feel.
How does one know the baseline minimum amount of protein one should be eating daily?
According to research and science, that we have 0.8 times your lean body mass. So for, someone who's 20% body fat, weighs 130 pounds, that's going to be around 90 grams of protein minimum per day, 80 to 90. So that is the amount needed to maintain your lean muscle. That is the absolute crucial amount for you to not start catabolizing your lean muscle. Now, it is a little different when you're fat adapted. Ketones are muscle sparing, so you can get away with lower protein, but I would prefer you just fast completely, which will spare your muscles completely. You shouldn't lose muscle if you're really, truly fasting. But if you're training your body to run on 60 grams of protein per day, you're going to downregulate a lot of things and it's not going to be good. And you'll probably start tapping into your muscles. So 0.8 times your lean body mass is bare minimum. Ideal, what I recommend is 1 gram per pound of desired body weight.
For our new carnivores watching, if they want to start the carnivore diet, what is a go-to meal that gives enough protein and that gives enough fat?
Oh man, that's a great question. Ribeye steak. So
Yeah.
ribeye is typically a 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio. Eat some ribeye and then have some fat on the side, whether that be beef fat trimmings, hollandaise sauce, which is just egg yolks and butter. I used to make little waffles out of just egg yolks and then spread butter on those. That is a delicious side to literally anything. I would eat those with so many dinners just to get that fat intake up. Eggs, cook your scrambled eggs in butter. I like to get slightly higher fat than protein. So an egg by itself is 7 grams of protein and 5 grams of fat. So if you add 1 or 2 tablespoons for your eggs, then you could easily get higher fat than protein. And that's just so simple and so easy. Or they could make your steamed egg pudding. I love that stuff. I had never heard of it before. And it really helped me when I was healing. Just like, this is such a fun way to eat eggs. I love lamb chops. Lamb chops are, if they're not trimmed, they're naturally higher fat than protein. And they give you so many nutrients. Lamb is awesome.
Hamburger patties with cheese, such a basic, eggs as a side. I think including a lot of variety is really good when you're starting, and small amounts of dairy is usually fine. So to not overload it with, but I like having different colors, different textures. When I was starting, that's what I needed. I needed a bunch of different looking things on my plate. And so even, seafood or chicken wings, things that just give little bits of variety. And then for starting out, bacon, come on.
I did bacon and eggs early on, and that was all that I wanted. And then later on, I just wanted ribeye. So it's interesting how our taste changed. So definitely pay attention to that.
You mentioned priming. Can you give us a scientific background to why it is that it helps so many people and that we see the results that we see with it? Just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Priming is just saturating your cells with nutrients. It's telling your body, hey, I've got you. You're in a supported place. I mean, I use the same approach with all of my clients for healing. It's just not as condensed as you guys do it because you do the fasting, but it's literally just we're saturating our cells with nutrients and we're cutting out all the anti-nutrients. It's the way that we were made to eat. We were made to feast. Too many people are stuck in this restriction, or they're scared to overeat fat or red meat. Most people, they're probably deprived in one way or another. So they're going to see huge benefits when they finally provide the proper foundation for their body to thrive. And it's surprising. I know you guys can attest how many calories, I hate to say that word, but it's true, how much energy someone requires when they're thriving.
Yes.
I maintain it like 2,500 calories per day when I'm not pregnant. I don't even know how much I'm eating now. Most of my female clients are 2,200, 2,500, even the ones that are 5 foot tall, because they are finally supporting their body the way it needs to be supported. Look at Bella's meals. She knows how to feast. I love that she shares that. People, I know people are looking at that and being like, I could never eat that much. But I'm
Yes.
over here like, you should eat that much.
We need to talk about how eating more can be so very beneficial and healing. And there is such a fear. There's like this
Yeah.
roadblock that people cannot get through or walk over because they're so scared of weight gain, because they're so scared of X, Y, and Z happening. So talk about why you think eating more can kind of break that cycle, break that weight loss stall. What does it do to the body when you eat more?
And when you eat more of the right foods, your body can thrive. So if you have thyroid issues, if you have nutrient deficiencies, the only solution is to eat more. You have to. We get issues when we undereat, and most people, a lot of people are chronically undereating. So the only way to break through that plateau is to eat more. And people are afraid of that because you might gain weight initially. You know, your body is adapting. That's why maybe going slowly can help. Or you can just bite the bullet and give your body what it needs because you will shed the fat eventually. But what you're doing is you're training your body. One, you're upregulating your thyroid. You will naturally burn more fat. You're literally upregulating all of your internal organs to function at a higher level of caloric intake. So you're going to burn more fat at rest if you train your body to eat more. It's basically just input and output. The more you put in, the more your body will learn to put out. I remember during a time that I was almost homeless, mentally, I was thinking, I probably just need to eat the bare minimum because I know my body will downregulate and adapt, and I know I can survive. It was a really toxic mindset, but it was a way to save money. And I know when I was more, able to buy food regularly, I was like, okay, I need to start eating more. I know my body will just adapt. Adapt is the word. Your body will adapt to what you give it. And if you're using real food and cutting out carbs, the weight that you gain is probably going to go on really well. Your hormones will be supported. Your body composition is going to look good. You
Yes.
might get more curves in better places. Like I gained
Oh, yeah.
55 pounds or 65 pounds in a year, and I loved every bit of it. I never once looked at my thighs and thought, oh, this is so uncomfortable. I never had that feeling of tearing off my own skin because my hormones were healthy. It was made to be there. When I gained weight in the eating disorder unit on seed oils and carbs, I wanted to tear out of my own skin, even when I was still
Wow.
underweight. It was a horrifying experience. And too many people live with that and they're afraid to gain weight. So they just restrict and they don't know what it feels like to be curvy and healthy.
So that's fascinating. You're saying that when you were eating the wrong type of foods, you almost had a anorexic type mindset. Is that what you're
Oh,
getting at?
yeah. It was so triggering. In the eating disorder
Wow.
unit, we were eating 75% carbohydrates. They were, limiting the fat, and the only fat they had were mostly seed oils. And I was scrounging for fat. I was like, give me a side of peanut butter, give me a side of butter. And they were limiting me because they knew I came from a keto mindset. And I
Wow.
was eating 4 servings of sweet potatoes in one sitting. I was eating 6 apples per day. It was insane. And I remember laying in bed and just laying on my back and feeling my thighs and just feeling this crawling feeling. Like it just felt so uncomfortable. And I was still emaciated. I only gained 15 pounds in there before I checked myself out. And it was just a horrible feeling. And my roommate, this was like her 20th treatment. She had been in and out her whole life. She was older than me. And she was the same way. She would walk laps in our room because she hated the feeling of eating all those carbs, and she hated the feeling of it's literally the feeling of your body storing fat and toxins. When you eat
Wow.
carnivore and you eat saturated fat, you're
Yeah.
not storing it, you're burning it. You can
Yes.
feel when you're storing crap in your body, and it is very
Wow.
uncomfortable.
Oh, I love that perspective. I mean, if the way you make it sound like it was definitely a different type of weight gain that
Yeah.
you got, and you did not like that weight gain versus on carnivore. You
Oh,
felt
yeah.
curvy, you felt more womanly, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
from
more
all that.
womanly,
Yeah,
more strong. I mean,
yeah,
carnivore, you feel strong. You feel
yeah, yeah.
energized. Your mood is good, but also just like I loved my curves as they came on. It was great. When
Nice.
I gained weight in the eating disorder unit, I felt bad mentally, but also physically. I didn't feel strong. My autoimmune issues were getting worse. My
Wow.
digestion, I didn't poop for a whole month. They had no solution for that except for mag citrate. So obviously that's uncomfortable.
Mm.
And when I got out of there and started eating keto again, I got the worst oxalate rash, keto rash. It's just oxalate all over my face, all over my back for 3 months.
Mhm.
It was just
Nightmare.
hell. So you can just imagine how your body feels when it's loaded with toxins. On carnivore, I mean, I swear there was never a day I looked in the mirror and I was upset. I was like, this is awesome.
Yes.
Wow.
And I remember going through high school, 7th grade, I wanted the thigh gap. I didn't want my thighs to touch. I didn't like puberty. I didn't like curves. I used to tape my boobs down. It wasn't, I've never experienced weight gain in this way where it felt so good, every little bit of it.
Wow.
And I think a lot of women need to know that it can be a comfortable experience.
Oh, I
I
love how
love
you
that.
speak of this. This is our message. It's healthy. It's good for you, and it
Yeah.
helps you in your self-love. And even on your journey too, that wherever you are, it's not about the scale. It's not about if you're a size 6 or you're a size
Yeah.
14. It's not about that. It's about
Yeah.
feeling good in your own skin. And I love how even on your journey too, you got healthy, strong, worked out, and had a dream body through all of it and loved yourself through every single phase of that and loved every curve when you were in that process. Beautiful.
I've always said the biggest thing for me that my fat is different. I tell people that, I have a high percentage of fat on my body. It just looks good.
Mhm.
And then you're proof of that, Rebekah. You're like, I have a
Yeah.
six pack.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I
and it's,
had one.
well, I had one. Yeah.
There's
But
somewhere, but I don't see
yeah.
it anymore.
But it's hard to convince people that's different, because the seed,
Yeah.
when I was eating seed oils, I mean, everything, I just felt fluffy, like, marshmallowy, soft,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
everything's hard. Even the fat on me is harder, and it
Yeah.
looks good.
You connected it beautifully with fasting, how that could work beautifully with just doing some fasting if you are overeating or overnourishing.
I don't like the measuring aspect of it as much as the feel of it. So we like to talk about what it feels like when you're getting enough and how that can change and modulate from there. I know that it's kind of hard for carb eaters to get that feeling when they're first transitioning, but we actually explain it as they go along and to feel what they feel throughout the feasting. And then, of course, when they get to the fasting portion, what it feels like when under eating can become a problem, or how fat adapted they are. But I feel like there's several levels of fat adaptation, not just one. So, for example, I've noticed that it's not just getting food out of your fat cells, but also liquids, water. And so that's another level. Usually it takes a little bit. And there's one where, while under stress, like, for example, physical exercise, that you're able to even tap in further. So for me, there's 3 levels of fat adaptation.
To me, it's so ancestral that we would need to go for periods of time without any food, that we would, come upon food, would feast, would have these big periods of feasting, and would have periods of time that there would be no food. So to me, it's just using like an ancient tool. But the feasting part is so important. I feel like the feasting part sets you up for what we call a nourished fast, and for what sets you up for a fast that feels good and doesn't flirt around with that, getting the levels tanked out. And we like to think of it exactly what Rebekah's explaining about getting your cofactors and your organs, getting everything stronger and robust, and getting those background needs met first. And then a healthy body can fast from there. So I think it's just a natural way to cycle through periods and give the organs rest, give the body rest, stimulate autophagy. We know all the many benefits that fasting can provide, and we love that we can get people to a spot where they can fast very easily and healthily, and be looking out for signs that they need to shift gears and turn the fasting dial down if that's what's necessary as well.
If you're interested in trying the priming protocol and also reaping all of the benefits of fasting, Coach Raymond and Coach Emily teach their full 90-day fat loss program within our monthly Steak and Butter Gang challenges. You will get easy to follow weekly guides on how to eat and when to eat. For more details, you can go to the URL shown on the screen, sbgmeetup.com, or check out the links down below in the description box for a clickable link. And I'm going to showcase Rebekah's transformation photos because every time I post them or share them on my social media, people really are floored. They just want to know your story. They want to know what happened, how you healed. So just reiterate, how much weight did you gain total?
Yeah, 65 pounds. I went from 69 pounds to 155, but I usually say around 65 pounds. 69 was my lowest recorded weight, but I know I was lighter than that at one point. That was in the hospital when they started weighing me. And that happened over the span of 1 year. And all I did was eat mostly lamb, salt and water for 1 year.
Yeah.
I got into CrossFit after that first year, honestly. And that is when I was not craving the extra fat.
Yeah.
And all of that, you know, that workouts hormesis definitely helped me to put on more muscle and more tone, which was awesome to see. I mean, my body took to it like that. I was not doing anything extreme. I was still going to bed at, 8 o'clock at night, sleeping like a baby, eating plenty, never restricted or anything like that. It was like, this is effortless. And I felt confident enough to wear a sports bra, at CrossFit. It was like, wow, this is great. And yeah, it's not restrictive at all.
Let's talk about fat, different types of fat. You are always utilizing raw fat, suet, beef fat trimmings. Talk about why you prefer beef fat over butter.
I prefer the taste of butter. The issue was that when I was healing, I couldn't handle butter. I was sensitive to everything. I tried reintroducing butter after a year and I got arthritic symptoms after 3 days. I was still healing. And then I also had an issue with loose stools. So suet, I discovered, didn't give me loose stools if I ate it raw. Suet is kind of like eating a candle. It has a very waxy texture. It is not as delicious as butter. But for those who are more sensitive, I highly recommend it. It is full of stearic acid. It's full of nutrients. And when you start eating it, you will feel so good that you'll start craving it, regardless of the texture or taste. It's like you make this connection like, wow, this is medicine, and you just want it. And a lot of that happens with a lot of my clients as well. But I love butter. I love butter. I take chomps out of sticks of butter. My husband does too. But I really like to emphasize the saturated fats over, fats coming from pork or chicken, just because I have seen it play such a major role in my personal healing journey, or anyone else who has maybe chronic pain issues or skin issues, inflammation issues. Balancing that omega-3 to 6 ratio is really significant. But yeah, I mean, if I had to choose my favorite according to taste, it's for sure butter. I love the Truly, I think is my favorite butter.
Oh, the Truly. That's what you eat, right, Bella?
Okay.
That's exactly what I eat as well.
Yeah.
Do you
Really?
do salted or
It's
unsalted?
so good. I do salted. I know you do unsalted.
Yeah, personal preference. And then with fats, there's always that conversation that we can go into. If you are sensitive to butter, maybe try out ghee before resorting to beef fat and suet, right? Why is it that ghee is more gentle or less inflammatory than butter?
Ghee is clarified butter, so they are taking out all of the dairy proteins. Some people can react to ghee though, because it is basically condensed milk fat. So I have seen people react to ghee, but not butter, but it's because it is clarified and they're taking out the dairy proteins. Butter should already have a really minimal amount of lactose and casein, but people who are lactose intolerant or really sensitive to dairy will still react.
And then there's raw unpasteurized butter. That could be an option if you really want to play around with butter as an option. Emily, do talk about your popular browned butter bites.
Yeah, I came across these pretty early in the journey when I was dealing with getting over sweetener addiction and dealing with sweet cravings. This was what helped me get out, in addition to priming. So this is just butter, and it just browns and caramelizes at a certain point. So it really is simple. I use unsalted, boil it on the top of the stove, and watch for that color change. It kind of foams up and has a little bit of a color change that actually, to me, tastes caramelized. And I think that's what's happening. It's caramelizing, and then just spread it out on a cookie sheet, break it into little bits, or you can make them into shapes, and just always have those by. They're wonderful frozen. They're great in coffee. They're nice just as a treat when you have a sweet craving. To just have a brown butter bite is wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, and sometimes you can I've seen people put bacon in them too. If you want to go like to all the levels, there's, and I've seen them put brown butter over egg pudding, brown butter sauce on top of Dr. Campbell's ice cream. Like, we can have a lot of fun with this brown butter.
Did you ever get into the point where you got meat aversion by having too much fat at any point in time?
I had days where it was like, I really don't want to eat this same thing again. So on those days, I would go to Whole Foods and get short ribs, instead of the lamb, just mix it up and get some variety, treat myself, spend more money than I normally would on steak. And I was fine. Other than that, I was only eating 2 meals a day for my entire, healing journey. For half of it,
Wow.
actually, I did OMAD, which I mentioned the other day. That was when COVID happened and I couldn't go to the gym and I just didn't have the appetite. I still gained half of my weight on OMAD. So,
Nice.
I didn't have many aversions because I always waited until I was hungry to eat.
Mm.
I really wasn't like force feeding. I never had to overeat to gain healthy weight. All you have to do is give your body enough. And that's what I did. And it worked like a charm.
You're great at talking about if you have a lot of healing to do or you're dealing with a lot of chronic pain, chronic issues, to play around with what type of meat, play around with lower histamine types of meat. So I'd love for you to share your knowledge on histamine intolerance, what meats are maybe more suitable for people who have histamine intolerance.
Definitely. So histamine was something getting in my way for a long time. I
Mhm.
tried carnivore 8 times, literally 8 times, and I felt worse each time. And I finally just decided this isn't for me. I felt doomed. So I was just sticking with keto, which was making me worse. So the last time I tried it, which was the time that worked, I just decided to think outside the box. And instead of just beef, salt, and water, I did more other ruminant animals like lamb and goat and veal. I discovered this company called Billy Doe Meats. They were local to me at the time and they're non-aged completely. And that was a total game changer. It was 3 years since the last time I wasn't reacting to something I was eating. So finding that meat was a lifesaver.
Mhm.
So I did eat mostly lamb for that first year of healing where I reversed all of my diagnoses. And that was greatly because of the lower histamine content. So histamine is not the bad guy, but I had a buildup of it and I had intolerance. I had mast cell activation syndrome as well. So focusing on non-aged meat and then smaller animals, it takes more time to process a 1,500-pound cow versus a tiny little lamb. The processing time increases histamine. Histamine basically increases with exposure to the air, with aging. So any aged meats would be bad for someone with histamine intolerance. That was a game changer for me. And now I have zero histamine intolerance. I can eat at a Brazilian steakhouse. I can eat 5 pounds of meat and my nose doesn't even drip. So that's something that will improve with time for anyone dealing with that issue.
Yeah, you mentioned nose doesn't even drip. So let's talk about some symptoms that may be common for people who want to know, well, am I having histamine intolerance issues or symptoms at all? What are some common symptoms?
Yeah, I think the first most common is if your nose starts running like a faucet shortly after eating, that is a histamine reaction for sure. If you're like, why is my nose dripping? That's histamine. Another common one is heart palpitations shortly after eating, anxiety, diarrhea, or skin rash. Those are all histamine intolerance.
Yes, I personally experienced a skin rash. My psoriasis and eczema got itchier. So when I started cutting out the aged meats and I started eating exclusively fresher, higher quality meats, I did see it improve.
You go through a period of time where you're going to have to be super, super careful about what you eat, but
Right.
that doesn't last. We've had a lot of clients that can open it back up after a period of time. And so I don't want people to think that if they're going through a healing crisis, a histamine issue, an oxalate issue, that that's going to be how they always feel on carnivore. Sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. And just being consistent with it can actually, be an overall win for them.
If you're new to the carnivore diet and you're struggling with symptoms like muscle cramping, headaches, lower energy than usual, it could be a sign that you are having an electrolyte imbalance. Leaning on a high quality electrolyte supplement can do the trick. I recommend this brand. It's called Element, spelled LMNT. The blue colored box called Raw Unflavored is their cleanest, safest one for us carnivores because there's no stevia, no flavorings, nothing but just the 3 electrolytes that our body needs. Here is what each of the packets look like, and you can just pour it in whatever beverage you drink, mix it up, drink it down, and you are good to go for your electrolytes. You all can get a free sample pack with any purchase if you go to the URL shown on the screen, drinklmnt.com/SBGAL, or you can click the link down below in the description box. Talk about CIRS. So could you introduce this concept, how to know if you even have it, to the audience watching?
Yeah, so CIRS is a very hot topic right now. And I think a lot of people are triggered by it. It can be caused by mold toxicity, Lyme disease, brown recluse spider bite. So it's not just mold, but CIRS stands for chronic inflammatory response syndrome. It is basically exactly what it says, a chronic inflammatory response syndrome.
Yeah.
And I had it. I was diagnosed, I believe it came from the Lyme disease. I did have mold toxicity, but I think mine came from Lyme. some common tests for CIRS is the VCS test. It's a $15 test online. That's a good place to get started. Beyond that, you could do MMP9, MSH, ADH, DHEA, and cortisol. Those are tests that your traditional medicine doctor should be able to run. I say this because too many people think they have CIRS. They find a functional medicine doctor who they have to pay out of pocket with, and then they want them to run a bunch of out-of-pocket tests, which are thousands of dollars. I know people who have spent over $10,000 in the first 2 months of looking into CIRS just to even diagnose it. That is so unnecessary. So I would start with those tests if you strongly think you have CIRS. And I took the Shoemaker protocol by Dr. Shoemaker to see if I had any blind spots. I healed CIRS without any protocol. I know many people who have healed it without a protocol, many of my clients. But then I know there are people that say, you know, if I didn't have this protocol, I wouldn't be here. And so I took the course to learn more, to see if I had blind spots. What I see is that about 25% of the population has a genetic difference. It's called an HLA haplotype that makes them more susceptible to CIRS, basically. It has to do with their immune system and the way that it can fight off these types of things. But even that, those people in the 25% still don't need to do the protocol. They may benefit from it, but what I've seen in my practice with clients is that the protocols typically hurt them. It is a very strong detox process. You're doing binders, you know, it's a multi-step process. It can be beneficial. It can be life-saving, but I don't think that it is necessary. I've worked with too many people who have already done the protocol, were worse off, came to me, and then we resolved the problem. No more CIRS. With food as medicine. And that's too powerful for me to ignore. I don't care what anyone else says. I fully respect what people choose to do. But I see that this right now is something that people are identifying with, just like Lyme disease. When you have that diagnosis, it just takes over. And you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do all the binders. I got to find a doctor. And you're just willing to spend all this money. And it's just not necessary.
I have a client with CIRS, and it's like you said, he's taking all the binders, making sure mold toxicity is not a thing in his house. Although that is very important, but he is doing a carnivore diet also. And he's even said he's noticed through the calendars, going through the calendars and staying carnivore, that's been more helpful than even the supplements that he's been doing.
Fasting is a great method of detox, but you have to be careful with it, because if you push it and your adrenaline and cortisol gets up here, you're just halting the process. So I would say, use a balanced approach, make sure they're fat adapted, make sure they're properly priming before fasting. But I think it could be a great tool depending on the individual.
Let's transition to Rebekah's pregnancy, because that is just so special. Talk about how your pregnancy has been so far.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. I love being pregnant. I mean, I had literally one day of nausea. It was on a Sunday morning, and then I felt better later in the day. And then I had one night of acid reflux, and I just drank some peppermint tea. That's it. I have definitely been more emotional in this third trimester. I think the third trimester has been more difficult, but I still feel great. I still work out every single day. The only reason we haven't gotten into CrossFit is because we just moved and we're still unpacking and stuff. We don't really have time, but I work out every day still. And my appetite has been fantastic. I've had zero meat aversion. I will say I've craved more variety. So I don't really feel like eating just like one plain cut of meat. I like to have variety. I've been making, the pork panko breaded chicken wings, or, I eat sweetbreads with my burgers. I just want more variety, but I still crave meat and eggs. I cannot not eat eggs, which is really interesting. Even when we go to a Brazilian steakhouse and I skip breakfast because I'm saving my appetite, I will come home and make eggs because I just feel incomplete. It's really interesting to see how my body is like, no, you need that folate. You need to eat the eggs. It's very obvious. Even with iodine and minerals, I feel that I need an increase of those. And so just being able to trust my intuition through this process has been really rewarding. I trust my body, and it's gone so well. We're super excited.
Are you taking any supplements?
I have a folate supplement that I bought, but I don't take it because I eat enough eggs. So the only supplement I'm taking is liver because I don't really want to eat raw liver like I normally would. The idea is not appealing to me anymore, but that's it. Just the liver capsules.
Wow.
As far as liver, are you talking about like you just don't like the taste? It makes you want to like not good
Um,
things.
the idea of eating raw meat while I'm pregnant is not attractive to me. When I'm not pregnant, I want my meat blue. I
Ah,
love rare. Serve it to me cold, I'll eat it. When I've been pregnant, I definitely don't prefer that. So normally I eat raw frozen liver, just little hunks. I've been doing that for years. But
right.
when I became pregnant, I was like, yeah, I'm not really in the mood to do this. I just started giving it to my dog. And then finally I was like, all right, I'm going to take the capsules.
And I'm curious to know what your birth plan is, and are you planning to breastfeed?
Yes, I plan on breastfeeding for 6 months. He's
Wow.
not going to take a bottle for if all goes well. That's what my mom did for my sister and I really thank her for that. And so many benefits to breastfeeding. You're exchanging information every time your child breastfeeds, and I think it's just so beautiful. It's a gift I can give to him. So as long as I can, I'm not going to breastfeed a 3-year-old, but 6 months at least. And then Tyler will start feeding him with the bottle too, but I'll still do breast milk. I don't want to do any formula. The birth plan, we would love a home birth, but the expense is about $7,000 out of pocket. And then we live an hour away from the closest hospital. So if there were a situation where I would need a C-section, maybe he gets stuck, we would be an hour away from a hospital, and that makes us a little nervous.
I see.
So I would love to do a home birth in the future, but for this one, we're probably going to do it in a hospital. We are trying to find a hospital that will let us basically relax. I'm going to bring twinkle lights. I'm going to bring all the things that make me feel comfortable. I'm going to bring my food and water. I have a birth plan written out, no Pitocin, no epidural, no this, no that. But my husband is going to be there, helping me stand firm with those decisions. We also hired a doula who's just going to help me with getting into positions and natural pain relief. I am open to an epidural if I need it. I've never given birth before. I'm not ashamed to ask for help if I need it. But I do know that the mind gives up way before the body gives up. So on my birth plan, I said, please don't offer pain medication. Let me ask. I'm going to try my best not to get an epidural. And I think I can do it. So I'm excited.
Does doula get to come to your home and labor with you a little bit at home too?
Yes, they are going to come twice. They come for 90 minutes. They're going to help me learn about breastfeeding and positions. That was the main, I know that if I did enough research on YouTube, I could learn myself, but this is something where it's like, I want to pay someone to help me because when I'm in labor, I might forget everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth it.
Beautiful.
Wow.
I had doulas with all of mine and I was never sorry. They were
Awesome.
so helpful. And so I was able to go C-section, natural birth in the hospital. And then by my fourth baby, I was able to have my fourth baby at home.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow,
That is incredible.
that's so cool.
I had one of my babies in the hospital and one at home, and let me tell you, it is a night and day difference. But
Yeah.
do be prepared at the hospital for a proper birth plan and
Yeah.
one that you'll go over with even a doctor or whoever's delivering.
Yeah. Exactly. We will have printed copies. I'm going to tape it to the door, my bed. Anytime
Yes.
someone comes in the room, I will hand them one and say, don't touch me until you read this.
Yes.
I hear that they push these things and it's a little nerve-wracking. How many things I have to be defensive with just to not mess my baby up as soon as he comes into this world. It's pretty crazy.
And there are little things too that nobody really thinks about. For example, when the placenta comes out, they like to clamp it right away.
Yeah,
and
I heard.
cut it right away. And so it's good. And all of this needs to be in the birth plan, down to the eye, the
Eye ointment. We're going to bring colloidal
yeah.
silver just in case, but they're not doing that. No vitamin A.
No,
We're going to bring it
vitamin
just in
K.
case.
Yeah, vitamin
Yeah.
K.
Vitamin K is what I meant. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So that's great. That's great to hear. And also even washing the baby way quickly.
Oh yeah.
Is
they won't wash them.
Right. So,
yeah.
I love that you studied all that. This is great.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I can tell.
Wow. What about someone who's new to this carnivore lifestyle and they're wondering, But when one is pregnant, carnivore must be dangerous for a pregnancy and a baby. What do you say to that?
I say I mean, we wouldn't exist as a species if that were true. I
Mhm.
mean, what do you think our ancestors did? Did they just sit under a tree and eat berries all day? Like, no, they were moving with the tribe, you know, birthing
Right.
out in the wild, eating, feasting. Um, every nutrient you need, especially during pregnancy, comes from animal foods. I think that cutting out the other foods is just a bonus because you're not sending mixed signals, you're not getting any anti-nutrients. Additionally, why would we need carbohydrates? I mean, during pregnancy, you are less insulin sensitive. That's why they do
Juice.
the diabetes
Sweet
test.
sauce. Mhm.
It's just like, why would we need carbs? It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. It comes from the same myth that you need carbs for a healthy cycle and a healthy thyroid. That's not true. And the same goes for pregnancy. I really feel like eating this way has protected me so much from so many complications I could have had. I have very minimal body pains. I know the nausea greatly is from imbalance of blood sugars. That is a proven fact. We don't know all the reasons people get nauseous, but I know stable blood sugar is a huge reason that I haven't been nauseous. And that's because I'm not eating a bunch of carbs. I'm just eating fat and protein. So you're not going to miss anything your baby needs. If anything, you'll be eating more of all the nutrients he needs. Saturated fat is essential for your baby's central nervous system, the development of his brain. You know, why are we going to skimp on those things?
I'm so excited you're going to have a carnivore baby. This
Carnivore
is
baby.
amazing.
Yes.
You
Wow.
know, Rebekah, I just am amazed. We had you on our call today, and you deliver information in such concise, thorough, compassionate manner. And I feel like our entire room on our Zoom calls are just like, who is this woman? How
Exactly.
can she convey this knowledge and this communicate so clearly? And so I'm so thankful that I get to see you every month, and I mean more. But I love it. It's just such a gift to our community to have you with us doing these calls.
To be able to share information in groups like this that I
Mm.
have knowledge. I am a geek. I am a made geek because I had to fight for my life for 13 years. I have
Right.
learned a lot. I taught myself a lot. And that experience now is being used to help others. And that is the most rewarding thing I could ever ask for. It feels like, you know, it's not wasted. It's not just for me, it's for all these people. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, Bella. And thank you for just the platform to help these people.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I would love for you to share where people can find you if they wanted to support you further or get in touch with you.
Yeah, so Tailored Keto Health to my Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I do one-on-one coaching. I do retreats. We're just on hold with that because of the baby. And you can get in touch just via my email, which is Rebekah@tailoredketo.health.
If you want to show Rebekah your support and your love, feel free to check out all of her socials linked down below in the description box. January 2024 is World Carnivore Month. I will be hosting the challenge alongside my favorite carnivore experts, Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Elizabeth Bright, Dr. Robert Kiltz, Dr. Tony Hampton, and Rebekah Heichman. Once you join the challenge, you will be able to hop on multiple live Zoom calls, multiple live Q&As throughout the week, every week, to ask these doctors your carnivore questions. We will help you troubleshoot and keep you accountable so that you get to your weight loss and health goals. For more details, you can go to the URL shown on the screen, sbgmeetup.com, or check out the links down below in the description box for a clickable link. And finally, before I wrap up, since it's the holiday season, I wanted to share that Bon Charge is having a 25% off site-wide sale. I wear their blue blockers every single day, and these would make some great gift options or stocking stuffers. This yellow one is medium protection. It's great when it's still bright outside, but you need to work in front of computer screens or any type of blue light. And these red ones, I pop on the moment it starts getting dark outside. Wearing blue blockers every day really keeps my eyes from getting strained and tired after a long day of being in front of blue light and devices. And it also helps you achieve better, deeper sleep when you wear it about a couple hours before going to bed. I'll make sure to link all of my favorite Bon Charge staples down below in the description box. Thank you again for watching the video. You can connect with me on all platforms, all at the handle @SteakandButterGal. All of my socials are linked down below as well. I will see you in my next video. SVG out.